Hi, Bill Henshaw here again with my YouTube videos on You Win in Court. And this one's going to deal with the events in Kenosha and Jacob Blake. I'm sure all of you are aware of the situation there. And this one, by the way, this is a different perspective than what you're going to see anywhere else from either side of the political spectrum, and certainly not on CNN with old bluff Schitzer. They don't talk about stuff like this. I do. It's my raison d'etre here. I've been 5 decades in studying the Constitution, history, and laws of the United States. So that said, the perspective here, just like it is with Eric Garner, for example, and Oscar Grant and others, is that these law enforcement thugs, and that's what you have to call them these days, not peace officers back in the day when I was growing up, are guilty because all the laws they're attempting to enforce here don't apply to any of us because we are not 14th War Amendment citizens, aka persons born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, aka artificial corporate entities. The sooner we get rid of this civil rights crap approach, the better. And the leaders of that movement, especially Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton, this is a message to you. Either you're too ignorant to know what the law really is, or even worse, you do know and carefully conceal it from your people to stay in positions of power on their backs. This has to change. Civil rights was never designed to work. It's never going to work. Once in a while, they got to make it look good to be sure. But bottom line is, with the law enforcement thugs and their PACs and the State Bar Association in control of all these legislatures, albeit territorial legislatures, you're not going to get anywhere. Too much to fight against. If, however, we invoke rights secured by the Constitution, any or all 6 articles thereof and or the 9th Amendment, that's a hell of a lot better approach. And what that means is, in effect, that if these law enforcement thugs are trying to enforce laws that don't apply to us, they knew or should have known, if the governor had executed his duty to faithfully execute the laws, that they didn't have any jurisdiction at all, and they were therefore acting in no official capacity. That being the case, they have personal liability. Now we don't get into any of this civil rights BS. And the Supreme Court has said, for example, that you have a right to self-defense. And we may have to start invoking it here if this trend continues. Indeed, if I would happen to be on a jury, especially in the case of a black man coming in there and being charged with doing any damage to a law enforcement thug, I would take the position and advise the other jurors of what I know, that we have a right to self-defense, especially when the court doesn't have jurisdiction and there is no way you can go into court and invoke rights. Therefore, if any law enforcement thug even looks sideways at you, given recent events and what the history has been over the last 4 or 5 years, you have a right to conclude that you need to act first and defend yourself. That's just the way it is. And to you law enforcement thugs out there, you're being put on the front lines here by people that don't have your best interests in mind at all. All they want to do is take care of business and stay in positions of power and use you as pawns in the game, to put it politely. So that said, we start making arguments like this. And as I've done, at the Oakland case, one of the arguments I made in addition to no states is that every law in the books is a bill of attainder, because we don't have any judicial courts anywhere in sight, either in the state, quote unquote, state courts or federal courts. And therefore, without judicial process, that's a no-brainer. One wonders that it's any accident that the 9 old farts, aka the U.S. Supreme Court, haven't ruled on the issue of bill of attainder, so far as my study has revealed, 5 decades worth, by the way, since the case called Cummings v. Missouri in 1867. Why is that? That's a dead bang simple issue. 4th graders are going to understand this one, even if law school graduates don't. We start making arguments like this, we're going to get a hell of a lot further, a hell of a lot faster. And we have an unprecedented window to put these bastards away now with all this COVID crap going on. And the covert martial law, they're trying to now convert to overt martial law, including the damn vaccinations that are coming up. More about that in other videos. But that said, we have to start to work together. They've been dividing and conquering for 150 years and probably longer than that, because they know keeping us on polar opposite sides is the best way for them to stay in business and keep their martial law governments intact. That's what has to change. Whether I'll live across the Red Sea and see it, I don't know. I got maybe 8 or 10 good years if all goes well here. And I'm going to do everything I can, just as I have for 5 decades and 15 years all in. And with the big win in the Oakland case recently, and when I say working together, this is what I'm talking about, because I just got a black kid out of jail. I've been there for a year without even a preliminary hearing. And I told his mom, who engaged my services, I'm going to be making what could be overtly look like white supremacist arguments. But those are the ones that win, not the civil rights crap. Never going to happen. So that said, this kid's now free, and we're looking at a very nice offensive lawsuit, having set an unopposed record in the trial court. And you can do the same thing, by the way. Send me an email, youwinincourt@gmail.com. I'll send you info on my document package, tell you how to do the same thing, and set yourself up like that. Because I've never had any opposition to any of my documents in any court, including my South Carolina felony case, where I shut the bastards up in the first 30 seconds of my initial appearance there. Oh, I wish I had that video. Stunned silence in the courtroom. They were looking around and said, what the hell have we done here? And you don't have to be nearly as good as I am to do that, by the way. They're so colossally ignorant of what the law really is. You learn 3 or 4 of the issues that I advocate. You're going to be a real danger when you walk into one of their courts too, and know the real issues and what the Constitution does say and what it doesn't say. So this is what we take away from Kenosha and other places, is we have to start changing the way we do business. Fortunately, I happen to be in the right place at the right time. As Og Mandino once said, describing luck, that's when opportunity meets preparation. I have 5 decades of preparation and no way for them to respond to any of it. They just don't, even if they could, they don't know how. And I'm right across the board. 90% of what I say comes from the U.S. Supreme Court. It comes from early court decisions, the framers of the Constitution. That's real tough stuff to beat, especially if you're only going to rely on the 14th Amendment. I got a 26-page brief on that one that destroys it. And that's the only jurisdiction these bastards think they have in their courts. So that said, remember to subscribe, like my videos, tell your friends, get the word out. The sooner that more of us start doing this, and especially from a broader spectrum across the board, the sooner we get these bastards off our back and get our nation and republic back. Thank you.